Hello everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the IanAbernethy.com podcast. In this podcast I'm talking to Mike Turbit, a fellow karate instructor based in the UK. Me and Mike have a common lineage as well within our karate family tree. Mike is one of those guys, I think, who's got teaching children down to a fine art. So I wanted to invite Mike on the podcast to talk about his top tips for teaching children. I know this is often a question that comes up at the end of your podcast, and I thought Mike is the ideal guy to talk about this. I actually recorded this interview quite a while ago, but due to life, I've only just and so been able to get it out now. So I'd like to publicly thank Mike for his patience while I got this edited together and out to you all. But it's well worth the wait. There's loads of absolute gold in this podcast that I found very useful and got me reflecting on some of the things that I do in my own teaching of juniors. So yeah, Mike's got a fine handle on this, and it's an enjoyable conversation too. I think you'll like listening to it. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Mike Turbit and myself as we talk about teaching children. So in this podcast, we're going to have a talk about teaching children. So I'm here with Michael Turbit of Team Black Belt. I've known Mike for a very long time. We have a shared kind of karate family tree and shared background. And Michael's the reason why I've recently started teaching children again. So for a long time, I didn't. I just wanted to teach, as I viewed it, proper karate, adult karate. And then it was after a conversation with Mike, he could kind of couldn't fault his argument. The aim is, with children, you teach them the karate that's appropriate to them, and then you get them ready to learn the adult karate. And obviously children benefit while they do that. There's very few people that I think have this down as well as Mike does. So I'm really pleased that he's joined us on the podcast, and we're going to have a look at some of the Michael's key precepts for teaching children. So thanks for joining us, Mike.
That's okay, you're welcome. Thanks for the introduction.
And would you be able to give everyone, so obviously we have Takamazawas in our shared family tree, but would you be able to give a little bit of background of you and what you do, just for those who don't know you?
Yeah, okay, sure. My lineage goes back quite a way. I started training originally when I was 12 years old, back in Coventry, with Sensei Barry Tatlow, and he's actually my uncle. So it was in the family for a long time. He was with Suzuki Sensei and then with Peter Spanton Sensei. So my background goes back to 1974, I think, something like that. And just made me feel really old. We then moved over to Sensei Takamazawa, so with Terra, and I gained my first dan under Sensei Takamazawa and my second dan. I then kind of went into having a family mode and all that sort of stuff. So I was in and out of karate for a few years. Eventually went back, because I'd moved to Solihull. I went back with Les Giles, who was part of the Wado Academy under Shomitsu Sensei, and eventually sort of kind of thought, well, it's a bit too rigid for me. I recontacted my uncle and went back into to karate with him, gained my third dan. So it's kind of 25 years between second dan and third dan, which I'm quite proud of. But then a few years later, sort of started to teach. A friend of mine was teaching in a school in Northampton, a full-time school. I walked into his dojo, saw what he was doing, and went, that's what I've got to do. I've just got to get out of what I was in recruitment at the time. I owned a recruitment agency. So I've been that. I actually sold it and started Team Black Belt. We started in a school. This was all over one Christmas, actually. I decided that's what I was going to do. And I said to a friend of mine who ran a school in Coventry, I said, I'm going to set up on my own in the new year. And he said, oh, good, because I'm closing my school. And I said, what do you mean you're closing? He said, well, I've been here for 15 years. There's 6 of us. 4 of us are dan grades, a white belt and a green belt. He said, and every time I go to train, I end up paying to hire the hall because my students don't turn up enough. And I said, right, okay. I said, well, look, don't bin it. Just let me take it over. And we contacted the school and did all that sort of stuff. And the first week that I took it over was the first week in January. And sure enough, 4 people turned up. And I thought, right, okay, we've got to do something here. So I changed slightly what we were doing. I kind of modified the way we were training. I brought in the Bobby Bully things. And by week 3, I'd got 1 student left. Oh, crikey, we're doing the right thing here. And we started doing some publicity and started getting some stuff out. I did some things that I probably wouldn't recommend now, putting posters up onto street furniture. I thought it's easier to apologise and get permission. So we ended up growing and doing fairly well. Within sort of the first month or so, we were up to 15, then on to 30, and all kids. It was just aimed straight at kids. My son was 7. You met Mitch. He came over to met with So he was 7 at the time, and I just thought, how can I sort of, not a weird way, attract 7-year-olds, because I want to teach him and get him involved, and so we ended up with a higher energy class, specifically with everything that we did targeted to really the parents of 7-year-old boys. Is kind of that's who I wanted to attract through the door. So Team Black Belts are friendly, our child-friendly logos, and everything we did was set up that way. And then it was, 3rd Dan, 4th Dan, that sort of stuff moving on. And that kind of takes me to where I am now, which was 2 years after we started. We moved into our own full-time dojo. And we teach now 320, 330 children every week. We also have an adult class running. And that's where we are, really. So the kids we build through our system through to junior black belts at the age of about 14, and then into the senior class, and hopefully turn into what we call proper black belts, adult black belts. Yeah. Somebody capable of looking after themselves. By the time they're 16, 17, that sort of thing. That's where.
Really good. Because again, for those that I've visited your dojo. Yeah. I've seen your students. So I think sometimes they have this view that, which I've been guilty of, that, you teach the proper way to teach proper students.
Yeah.
You've got a fairly innovative way of dealing with the kids, but the results speak for themselves. I've been there. They are good quality karateka. They can do everything that they need to do.
Yeah.
But you're not teaching them in a boring, rigid, up and down the halls, kind of way. So you've kindly shared with me like a number of precepts that you've got for teaching children, and I wonder if we can just talk through each of those one by one and have a little look. So if I'll read the precept out, and then if you just want to expand upon it, we can have a little chat. So, and again, I think this is, it's fantastic stuff. So, precept 1 is, the aim of karate is to improve the lives of its practitioners. You have a responsibility to your students and child welfare, which far exceeds your responsibility to your style, system, sensei, or tradition.
Yeah, I think that's... I think the objective of doing karate is to improve your life, and as an instructor, to improve the lives of the people that you're going to teach. And I kind of go on within the precepts, try and do a little bit of an explanation on each. So my next line of that is, the aim of karate is to improve lives, not ruin them. And I think sometimes we can be guilty, certainly in the past, of kind of trashing people and boring them out of existence before they even get through the door, virtually. So I kind of think this is the safety, the child welfare, and the sort of making sure things that we do are appropriate. So safe techniques to do. So again, I see lots of stretching stuff on the interweb, and I'm thinking, I don't want my kids doing that, because it's not a safe way to start moving their body, and some of the extreme stretches that people do. I'm too old to do extreme stretches now. Okay, so I just think we have to be careful in how we're warming the kids up, and how we're preparing them, and how we're getting them to use their bodies.
And you consult in kind of sports science for that kind of stuff, Mike. Obviously, you're looking at what the science is telling us, not necessarily what tradition would have us do.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's trying to find you'll kind of, there'll be a thread through this, is that I kind of go, well, this is karate, but how do we make it modern, and how do we take the best of what teachers know and what scientists know and what doctors know about how to make what we do better? So hitting boards, and again, you see a bit of that going on, but until a child's 14, 15, their bone structure's not set, and you start them on Tamashiwara, it's just not a good practice. Locking knees out when you're kicking, that was one of Taro Takazawa's thing, is keeping the knee flexed even when you're kicking, rather than locking joints out and stuff like that. So the first part of it was, is the technique that are the things you're asking them to do safe for them to do? Especially judging by their age, bone structure, their way they're growing, their ligaments, all that sort of stuff. He's making sure what you just be safe, rather than go, well, because my sensei said we do 300 press-ups before we start, let's do that. Is that a good thing for them to develop those great big shoulder muscles?
So physiologically, we've got those things, like you say, the bones aren't fully formed, so they don't want to be smashing them into hard objects.
Yeah,
we've got the issue, as you say, like musculature. They don't want to be stretching in a way that an adult would do. So there's those physical things as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and obviously, again, as you say, the way in which people conduct themselves has been important. Because you see people teaching a very austere way, which may not be psychologically healthy for kids.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the next thing is kind of, for me, is the environment. So who are they training alongside, and how are you trying to get them to train?
Yeah.
Again, when we were coming up a few years ago, you'd have kids training alongside adults. By the time you got to be a green belt, you were known as cannon fodder. Because you just were. It was good enough to punch now. Again, with kids, it's not kind of the best route forward, I've found.
Yeah.
So, is the environment safe? Is the floor safe? Are the conditions safe? Are the people around them safe? Are they mismatched? Are we doing any partner work where one kid's, 5'10" and 10 stone, and you're trying to get him to train with another child who's 7 years old, 4 stone, wringing wet? So the environment and what we do is it a safe structure of a class? Really, is the structure of the class and the environment safe? Then I look at things like, is it safe outside the dojo? And I think some of us miss that. So if I'm teaching my 12-year-old, if you want, to sweep and stamp on someone's head when they hit the floor, and they do that 20 times tonight, go to school tomorrow and sweep someone and stamp on his head. I've taught them to damage another human being, if you like, in a fairly serious kind of way, that I've got to live with as an instructor. The child's got to live with knowing that they've really damaged somebody. And the kid who's damaged, obviously, is not in a good way. So what they've got to do is this fine line between what we teach as being effective and safe to do, but safe for them to actually do on a human being outside. Is it appropriate in the school playground that we teach eye gouges? It's probably not the best thing to be doing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me, because you've got that responsibility not just to the child, but the people those children interact with.
Yeah,
and there needs to be that acknowledgement that that the children don't have the same degree as emotional control, of emotional control that we'd like to think most adults would have.
Yeah, and I think sometimes for our conversations in the past is looking at the katas and saying this is a great application, but it's it's a finger strike to the throat and an eye gouge, and then you pull his head off. And it's kind of well, how do I teach the bunkai from the kata, but actually tone it down so it's a strike to the chin or it's a hit in the chest, rather than, I'm not trying to get a 12-year-old ninja killer out there.
Well, and the child as well, they still develop develop all the skills that when they get older they can move to learn that stuff as well. But I agree with you completely. It's not emotionally or psychologically or responsible appropriate or responsible to teach children that stuff. Yeah.
So I just think you've got to be careful. You just got to be aware of what we're teaching, where we're teaching it, and what the usage of it is, outside. So again, the aim of karate is to improve lives, not just the student maybe, but the person who's stupid enough to bully him tomorrow. He's kind of, we don't want to ruin. The first question is, if one of my students stamps on someone's head, is who the hell taught him that?
Yeah.
That's me. Oh crikey! I don't want to be in the paper for karate instructor teaches 9-year-old to. To kill his teacher. It's not good press, really.
No.
So kind of that's, I just think maybe the inclusive thing is look, you're there to improve people and to make things better, not turn out killing machines, regardless of maybe how you were taught or how you were doing it, or what your personal feelings are, how tough you want people to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I noticed one of the little notes you've said about the importance of again, as we touched on, not just physical but psychological, making them confident, happy, giving them sense of security, a sense of self-worth. And again, you think of a lot of traditional teaching, do more, that's not good enough. That austere teaching can achieve the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, I'll kind of come on to that a wee bit more in one of the other precepts that I've written. But if you can bring somebody through your dojo door and they go out feeling good, then that's kind of a good night's work. You know what I mean? Regardless of whether they can punch any better, they go out feeling, well, actually, I did okay there. I'm a bit better as a human being than they don't think that. They just go, oh, I've had a good time. But they just but the confidence issues. I've seen children change in 2 lessons. Change. I had one student who remained nameless, but he didn't go to school for 6 months because he was being bullied. So he came through the door, and we did 2 lessons. His parents flagged it up, and we did a little bit of anti-bullying work. We did a little bit of the fence thing, just to say, look, you need, keep distance. We talked about distance, but we also did star jumps. And the kid's got a big smile on his face, and he's training. He's thinking about it. The second lesson, he went to school the next day.
Yeah.
And the parent went, I don't know what you've done or how you've done it, but he's back at school. And so. Just in 2 lessons, I changed. You get emotional on it now, but you change someone's life in 2 lessons.
Yeah, and that's as you say, the precept. The aim of karate is to improve the lives of its practitioners. So, that would be a good example of that being done there. Yeah. Awesome. So precept 2, we okay to move on that one, yeah? So if I'll give the broad heading, which is understand karate's values, understand your values, and understands the children's values. Would you like to expand on that one for us?
Yeah, sure. So that kind of feeds back into the emotional, psychological side of things. So, your values as a karateka may be that tradition is the whole thing, and whether that's a tradition from the 40s, the 60s, the 80s, whatever tradition you are aligned to, but it may be that you're really into traditional elements of karate. Everything's, if we go back to the 70s, everything's spot on. It's an hour of ki-on and it's an hour of partner work, and then it's randori till you're dead. So that may be your personal value. We're aligned with, this is how we do it. It may be, your respect to your past sensei as this is how we do things and this is why we're going to do it. It could be that you love traditional Japanese culture. It may be that you're a great sport karateka. It may be that you're a real practical guy, but you may be on that end of the thing where everything's got to be real and nasty. Yeah. It may be that you love the traveling from one event to another. When a child walks through your dojo, they have none of those values.
Yeah.
They're not interested in it at all. They've arrived because they've seen a poster or a flyer, or they've, their mate down the road, come here, it's really good. Okay, so the first thing they want to, let's say the first thing, but they all have different value system. Could be that they just want to go and have a good time. They want to be with their mates. They want to, have a bit of anti-bully stuff that they want to pick up on. It may be that their parents said, look, this would be really good for you, go and move. Get off the Xbox. Yeah. It could be that, there's some positive role models in the place and they're thinking, I want to be like. So none of those align with the values of the instructor, maybe. So when we're trying to teach kids and bring them along, in a way you've got to park, I think you've got to park to a large extent your value system and look at the value system of the people coming through the door. And that might be fun, it might be more energy, it might be running around like an idiot for 10 minutes. And I kind of think it a little bit like Robbie Williams, the singer. Every concert he does, he has to sing Blooming Angels. Right? Now he's probably sick of it. I've sung the last time I saw him, he changed all the lyrics to suit the day, to make himself more, to engage with it himself a bit more. But he must have sung it a million times. But if you go to a Robbie Williams concert and he plays his new album, you go, well, that wasn't very good. I didn't know any of the songs. Yeah. But if he sings Angels and a few others that he's had hits with, you go, oh, this is really good. And then he plays a new song and you think, actually, that's quite a good song. I quite like that one. And kind of the thing with the value system, I think if you park most of your values and concentrate on let's improve these people's lives, let's make it fun, let's get them joining together as a little community, their friendships are building, the stuff they do is energetic, and it's they're getting lots out of it, then you can teach them to count to 10 in Japanese.
Yeah.
You know, and then, now I can count to 10 in Japanese. So it's kind of just going, there's a little nudge to the Japanese tradition. There you go. Well, you're in your white gi. You know, there's another little nudge to it. And now I'm going to teach you Junzuki Oizuki. Yeah. And they'll come along with you. But I think a lot of people just go, well, this is what we do. This is what we did in 1983. This is how I teach karate. And I think they don't think deeply enough about the values that are in karate, because there's virtually every value that a human being could have, you can gain through training.
Yeah.
You know, it's just too many to sort of mention them all. But if you had a list of values that you think about karate, and you may have 10, you may have 20. If you put them in order, what's the most important thing to me about karate? Maybe, I don't know, that it's real. Maybe that it's strong. Maybe that I feel fit. Maybe that I love the Japanese. Maybe 1 to 10. Put them in order, 1 to 10, and then think about the 7-year-old coming through the door. And what does he value?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it. I mean, for me, you know, that's it. As a guy in his late 40s, one of the things that I value more and more about the martial arts is the fact that it's kept me really fit and healthy.
Yeah.
The child's not thinking about that. He's not thinking about what's it going to do for me as an old man. You know, that's the different thing. You know, so yeah, that's really good. So you would say again, the aim is then to understand why the child is there, what their aim is to get out of it, and not impose upon them what you think.
Yeah, I kind of put engage with, not impose on.
Yeah.
So then they're coming with you rather than you hitting them with a stick to do something they don't want to do.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, no, I like the way you've expressed that. That's a very important point, I think. Yeah, brilliant.
And you can't do it particularly on an individual basis unless there's a real need for, being bullied. Well, okay, we'll have a bullying lesson. We'll jump what we were going to do, and I'll help one kid and help the rest at the same time. But as an entity, 30 children, probably, 8 out of 10 values, if they realise they've got values, will be fairly similar. They'll all want to have fun. They'll all want to expend energy. They'll all want to have friends. They'll all want to do, So I'm not saying, this kid's got. Write down your value system and tell me what it is. Because you can't do that. But in a general feel for how things are going, they've got a value set that they really like. And one of the things that I don't know if I put it in this one or a later preset, if they don't, it's in the next one, but if they don't come back next week, you can't teach them anything.
Yeah.
So I'd rather do 5 minutes karate in a 45-minute class, karate that I think, that's karate, and have them come back so I can teach them for 5 minutes next week. Yeah, than them do 45 minutes of Junzuki marching up and down the room, bored out their brains, and no one comes back next week.
Yeah, but that's a really good point. If you're a believer in your system and you want to propagate it, and you see, you're right. You can't do that if people aren't there. So that there definitely needs to be that understanding why they're there and catering for their needs as well. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that would lead us nicely on to precept 3 then, Mike.
Yeah. Okay, we're already into it. I'll let you read that first.
So, precept 3, karate takes a lifetime to master, so teach children by meeting their needs, not yours. If they don't attend, you can teach them nothing.
Absolutely. So, we covered it a little bit in the last precept. So, I kind of put in brackets on that one. So stop rushing. Back in my day, 3-4 years to downgrade was common. When I was a teenager, learning karate, I would do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. On Saturday, I'd be playing 2 games of rugby. I'd be run to the dojo, 3-hour lessons. And it'd be total immersion. Nowadays, it starts off, it's a hobby. It's an after-school club virtually. So trying to get them to go from 6, 8, 10 years old to black belt in 4 years, in 3 years, it kind of seems like a little bit of a fool's errand. You're saying, well, just dedicate your life to karate now. And at those ages, there's too much else going on in the world for many of them to dedicate. Now, of course, we have kids here who turn up every blooming night virtually, and they've decided that's what they are going to do, and they are more dedicated than the rest of the class. But it doesn't mean the rest of the class aren't getting value out of stuff. And I can move those kids on faster if they want to come 3, times a week, and they train in at home and all the rest of it. But most kids will come, and they'll come once a week or twice a week because they enjoy coming. They have no real pretension to be what we would call, oh, he's a proper downgrade. He's 37 katas and he's deadly. They haven't got that foresight, if you like. They just know that on a Monday they go to karate, on a Wednesday they go to karate, and they quite enjoy it there. They have a good time, and they're improving, and they're going through the belt system, and they're having a great time. So for Team Black Belt, it's 8 years to Junior Black Belt.
Yeah, so that's brilliant. Yeah, I love that.
And people say to me, well, we've got 20 something belts to Junior Black Belt. Well, of course we have, because otherwise they'd never blooming grade. If we had 8, that's 1 grade in a year. They'd be going, well, what am I doing? Am I getting any better? So we grade termly. So in 8 years, it takes them to get up to Junior Black Belt, and then we kind of go, right, okay, now we're introducing more. Not that we haven't done traditional karate before, but we tend to then start going, right, this is Kion, and we're going to do it as Kion. We're going to march up and down the dojo, but we're going to do it for 10 minutes, not an hour.
Yeah.
Whereas with the system that we use, they're doing the basics, but we're not really disguising it, but they do it for 20 seconds, then they're into an activity, whether it's pads or whatever. And so they'll do something at the front on the bullies or the pads, and they'll do Kion to go to the back of the line. And then they'll come to the front of the line and hit something, and then they'll go to the back of the line doing Kion. So we take the time and go, I understand it's a hobby for you. Once you get to sort of junior brown belt, you're going to have to start upping your game, if you like, and turn it from a hobby to, the passion word. Something I'm really into and I really want to do that. I'm not going to play hockey on a Tuesday night. I'm coming training.
Yeah. So there's two things I just like to maybe draw out there, if that's all right, Mike. So one of the ones that this is just an observation, because obviously this is a podcast, people can hear us but they can't see us. But I've seen some of the like you say, the drills you get people to do on the pads and stuff like that. You've got these what I would stealing a phrase from Brian Seabright, what I would call these repetition by stealth drills. Yeah. So that they do Kion without realizing they're doing Kion. They've got little pad drills and movement drills and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So there's that, which is a a clever way of doing things. And I think as one of the things when you're talking about kids as well is this junior black belt thing is always a tricky issue where you get people they've trained for 18 months, they've got a black belt and they're 8 years old, and there's all endless problems with that. So and you've got a really successful group, you've got good numbers, the technical standards are good, and you were saying it takes on average 8 years to reach junior black belt. Yeah. And
depends on their age. If again, one of the things we do, if they start when they're 6, they start as white belts. If they start when they're 7 going 8, they start as yellow belts. So we kind of age stream it to start with. But if somebody joins me, in fact, they can join me before now. We're doing panda tots now at 3 years old, but I don't teach that one. But if they come in at 6 into the Karate Kids class, we expect them to be junior black belt by the time they're 14.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we say to them, there's a couple of years, 2-3 years progression to get to senior Dan grade.
Fantastic. No, and to me, that's how it should be done. I always like the old judo model where if you got a junior black belt, that was worth, equivalent of, higher Q grade. But there was never the idea that you'd jump from one to the other. And that's pretty much how I've tried to set up our...
for our junior black belt, they'll do Kushanku.
Yeah.
Okay, and then straight after that, then they feed into the adult class, and then we're going on to Naihanchi, Seishan, Shinto.
Yeah.
For their adult Dan grade. So another sort of 24, 36 months afterwards to get there.
And you're not losing them there, Mike. I take it when they make the transition, they're happy with it. And
well, sometimes we do. You've got to be honest. Sometimes they go, "I've got my junior black belt. I'm happy now. I'd rather go and play football." Yeah. Okay, well, look, you've been here 6 years. Thanks very much. We've changed it from a 6-year-old to a young man, a young woman. I know you're fairly competent in terms of punching and kicking because you've been here for 6 years. Off you go. I wish you all the best. If you want to come back, the door's always open. The other way is people go, right, I've got that. I'm going on now. I'm going to say, right, okay, now we start teaching the proper stuff now.
Yeah.
We teach you some of the bunkai stuff. We change the technique to more effective, more adult-based techniques.
That makes sense. I love that. That'll be interesting for a lot of people to hear. you know, the way you approach that. And with the thing about them leaving as well, I mean, I always think with children, they're going to do one of two things. You know, they're going to get older and stay training with you.
Yeah.
So in which case you can move on to the more adult stuff as they get older, as they become adults, having given them a good foundation. Or they leave, and if they leave, you'd like to think, well, the time in karate was something they got value from, you know. So,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, excellent.
Yeah.
Are we okay to move on to precept 4, Mike?
Yeah, of course, no problem, yeah.
So precept 4 is make them feel fantastic every lesson and they come back.
Yeah. Okay. So I can talk forever on this, Ian. If you want a podcast that lasts 4 hours, just ask me about precept 4. Okay. So one of the first things that kind of goes into my head is, why does sportsmen get paid so much? Okay, which kind of sounds a bit odd, but it drives me insane. Why does Harry Kane get paid X million? Why does Cristiano Ronaldo get paid £1 million a week, month, whatever it is? Okay, because they don't do anything really. They have a great time. They enjoy themselves. They do the thing they love, and then somebody goes, "Here's £1,000 an hour." And why does a nurse who does great work get paid so little in comparison? So one of the things that I've kind of picked up over the years is, people love having their state changed. Okay, so as an adult, okay, when was the last time you stood on a chair, jumped up, screamed at the ceiling, shook your arms, and said, "Yeah, oh, that's brilliant, fantastic, yeah," and go like it. I'm trying not to shout too loud, but when was the last time you really kind of let go with sheer elation?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the time probably for 30 million people in the UK was when Harry Kane scored his goal. When Dyer scored the penalty goal to get through the penalty thing. So what they did was they changed the state of 30 million people.
Yeah.
30 million people, or certainly a large percentage of them, will pay money for that feeling. Okay, so for the feeling of being totally joyous. So if you'll pay your monthly subscription to Sky TV and you get to watch your team and jump up and down and feel great, then that's worth the financial exchange. And it's a common sort of human trait. Everybody likes to feel good. And most of your life, you don't feel good, really. You just kind of feel, you get through the day, you do your tasks, you get to the end of it. Sometimes you go, that was okay. Sometimes something goes wrong and you feel awful. So one of the key things that we do at Team Black Belt, and I think it's a real good practice to do, is every time somebody walks through the door, whatever day they've had, whatever day you've had, your job is that when they leave, they feel fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've been praised, they've been welcomed, they've been smiled at, they've been told whether they're good at something, whether it's a star jump, whether it's a roundhouse kick, whether it's a punch that was on target, whether they were the loudest kid in the room, whether they gave a tag belt back to help another child, whatever it is that you can pick up to, that they feel when they leave the room, I feel great, I'm 10 feet tall. Because you can always remember the training sessions where you come out feeling, one of my sort of old memories is doing a Dominic Valera and Tiki Donovan session. And I came out of that session 2 hours later like I was dead, but felt like I was 20 feet tall. I could take on the world. I did things in that session that I'd never done before. And I just felt brilliant. And I kind of think a lot of times when we do martial arts and karate, we go, there's the syllabus, that's what you've got to learn. Okay, let's learn it. It's kind of a bit like if I do the podcast with this much energy, okay, and I haven't turned off, but if we did a podcast like that, people would be like, oh, God, I can't listen to this. It's doing my head in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not making them feel any better.
No, that's a really good. I mean, I think. See, for me, I enjoy teaching, so that comes across. And I think some people can kind of, he's enjoying himself, we're enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody has a better time, and I don't think as well. I did a podcast on this maybe a decade ago, saying that fun is the best kept secret in martial arts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no one likes to admit it. No one likes to, they all want more serious or dour reasons for training or for why we do it, but it doesn't distract from the end result either. You can have loads of fun while you're doing it and still end up like being more competent than the person who has a boring, miserable time over there. You can make things that are terrifying fun, challenging fun, difficult fun. So this is I totally agree. And with kids, all all the more so. I noticed in your notes, Mike, as well, you've got this observation about tiger cubs and the animal kingdom.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I couldn't let this precept go without hitting on that one, because it's a really good point. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that with our listeners. Yeah,
sure. So this is kind of, I picked this up off Rory Miller, so it's not mine. But one of the things he says is people learn through play. In the animal kingdom, we don't have lessons on how to be a tiger, or a lion. The cubs play with each other, and they sweep each other's legs away from them, and they pounce on a moth that's going by. They just play. And later on, that play, a year later, 2 years later, turns into their leg sweeping a deer and ripping its throat out. So, if we had a school for tiger cubs, if the mum tiger cub lined them all up and said, right, now we're going to do slide, step, ashi barai, sweep. What do you want about, mum? He's mental. You're just going to play. And then I'm going to trip my brother up, and he's going to trip me up, and we know how it works now. So, sort of in the animal kingdom, they play. They learn their combative skills, if that's what they need, through play. And kind of sometimes as martial artists, especially with kids, and I know with adults it works too, is the more we can play, the better people will get. I mean, we use just one thing, instead of sparring, because I don't spar with my kids, but we use tag belts. We use the rugby tag belts. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we play tag. But if you look at competition karate, and that's. I used to do a lot, and I'm happy with it. I'm old now, and I don't. But why get them to move in the same way that we do competition karate without doing a lot of drills? And what I do is I put a tag belt on them and say, right, get his tag off him. Just square up, if you like, in left stance each, black belt bounce in, take the tag, and then all of a sudden they're blocking arms coming towards them, they're moving, they're avoiding and evading. So it's just play. But what it then leads to is later on when they're 14 plus, and we go, right, get the mitts on, let's spar.
They've got those attributes. They've got the skills from the games.
Yeah. So I just think it's really important to make it as playful as you can, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you know, and I'm sure a lot of listeners know, I do the exact same thing with the adults. One of the first gripping drills I do is a drill we call playing for grips, and I use the word play deliberately. I don't want them fighting for grips. I want them playing.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
So they learn. I always have this thing that any productive drill should be, it's got 3 requirements. It should be safe, it should be productive, and it should be fun. Yeah. Because the ones that people enjoy, and I always, it was a private conversation I had with Dan Anderson, US, freestyle karate,
right,
where he says that most people teach sparring, he said, in the same way the Romans taught the Christians to deal with lions. When he said it, I thought, exactly, just throw you in at the deep end and you'll learn. And what people learn is, I can't do it, it's terrifying, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, and I get hurt.
Build it up gradually, and even more so with the children, if you can make games out of things, that develop usable skills. And again, I know there'll be some listener to this that think, no, it's a serious business, you shouldn't make it into a game, but you can, and you can make it enjoyable and productive, and then they develop real usable skills at whatever level, at whatever age. So I think that's a really good point.
I'm kind of fun and jokey and try and keep lots of energy and stuff. Believe me, I'm really serious about my karate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I come from the lineage where you were serious about it, or you didn't get anywhere. And I had one of my parents talk to me. I'm probably going back a couple of years, and he said, "When does it get serious?" And I just looked at him and said, "I'm always serious. It's always serious. Everything I do is serious, but I make it fun."
Yeah.
And he kind of stepped back and looked back and thought, am I going to hit him because I've been insulted? I just said, no, I genuinely mean it. I'm very serious about what I do, but if they don't come next week, there's no point.
Yeah.
And it kind of keeps coming back to this: keep them coming, keep them interested, keep them motivated, and you can lead them as a good instructor. You can lead them to where you want to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if your objective is to make them as good as you can possibly make them, as you've quite eloquently pointed out, you can't do that if they're not there, and you can't do that if they don't engage with it with full passion and enthusiasm. And by making it fun, you can get them to do both of those things. So one of my teachers used to say, he says, this is good training, good teaching. He says he's 80% training and 20% entertaining. And that nice. Always stuck with me, So like even with the adults, when I do this with the kids, it's another level. That's why. See, now I've got back into teaching kids. I'm wondering why I ever stopped, because I just realised how much fun it is.
I love it. Lovely.
Yeah, I was with the kids last night. It's one of my favourite classes of the week. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. But even with the adults, you can crack a joke, you can have a bit of fun, you can, it's Which again, I think that again nicely leads us on to your fifth precept as well, Mike. So it doesn't need to be dour, but you can still have the discipline. So your fifth precept is discipline is correct behaviour at the correct time.
Yeah. So I kind of, when I knew I was going to do the podcast, I did a little thing on Facebook and just put, what questions you want me to answer, and discipline came back as the, like 7 out of 10 things, or what do I do with discipline? And I think you have to kind of remember a little bit is that if they're not doing the behaviour you want, it's not because they're little horror bags. They're just not doing that behaviour at that time, and so. The way that you structure your class and the engagement that you have people with children tends to lead to less disciplinary problems. And disciplinary problems is they're not doing what you want them to do. It's not that they're out there stabbing people. This isn't a discipline. I struggle with the word discipline a little bit, to tell you the truth, because I tend to think you will do this and you will do that, and that's not quite. That's not bringing them along with you. That's hitting them with a stick. Yeah. So I kind of think you have to kind of weigh up a lot of the time what their needs are and are you meeting them. Okay, because from my experience, no kid is ever misbehaved while they're playing Xbox. Okay.
Fantastic observation. Yeah, brilliant.
They're not. They're fully engaged. They're fully immersed. They're listening. They're using their thumbs. They're it's visual. It's auditory. So no child is picking their nose and looking outside or punching the kid in front of them when they're on an Xbox, because they're immersed in it. And I think what happens is if they're not immersed in it, then they wander. And some kids wander quicker and more and further the less engaged they are. And it's just trying to, am I doing the right thing as an instructor, or are we trying to make them do 20 minutes worth of stuff that they ain't interested in and don't see any value in? So as soon as you get to that, then you end up with kids, I'm not happy, I'm bored, I'm going to... And they're really fast. If you don't engage them, it's not proper, they just leave. It's really fast. So, I think from day one is marking your stall out as an instructor. And one of the things I do with every student is once they've done their intro lesson, and people use trial lessons, right? What's a trial? Well, it's something really bad. You get put in jail after it. Okay, so I always use an intro lesson. So if you want to come along and do a free intro lesson, that's fine. We'll introduce you. We'll introduce to you. But once they've done the intro lesson, and my other half is fed up of me saying this because I've been saying it for 10 years, I come in and say, right, I've got really important questions to ask you. Okay, and the answer is yes, sir, or no, sir. Now those are the only two answers, and they're really important. And it's important that you say yes, sir, or no, sir, because we're always polite when we go to karate. I'm always polite to my instructor. You're going to be polite to me. And right off on day one, hour one, I'm telling them how the land lies. Yeah. And the next thing I say to them is, right, are you ready for the really important question? And they go, and I go, it's yes, sir, or no, sir. Oh, yes, sir. Right. So the most important question, did you have a nice time? And then they light up there. Oh, that's the most important thing. Yeah, lovely time. Do you want to come back next week? Yes, sir. Yeah. So then I say, well, there's some rules here. This isn't like school. Okay, you don't have to come here. And the really good news is I don't have to teach you. Right? So if you don't behave properly, and I will ask you to do things, and as long as you do them, that's fine. If you don't want to do them for any reason, that's fine too, but you just don't have to come. Yeah. And so it's kind of setting it out right on day one that these are the parameters. When you're here, you do as you're asked. Okay? And if you don't do as you're asked, then you're asked to leave. Yeah. Now, again, later on, I think it's 11 or 12 precepts is parents staying. So we always have our parents stay. And I bring the parents in when I'm having the conversation with the child. And I say, if he doesn't want to come, don't bring him. Yeah. If he doesn't want to behave in the structured way in which we teach, don't bring him. Yeah. It's not for everybody. But once you're here, if you want to be here and you want to do all the cool things, and I say to them, if and the next part of it is, I'm just going to backtrack a little bit, is after that, I'm saying to them, we only have well-behaved children here. I can't teach people who are badly behaved kicking and punching, because it's not safe. And if you go to school and you're kicking and punching, it's not safe. I say, so we only have well-behaved children. I say, are you well-behaved? They go,
yes, sir, or no, sir.
Yes, sir, no, sir. And they go, yes, sir. And I go, I can check. And then I just look up at the parents. And I go, so mostly. So look, you need to be well-behaved here, or you can't come. You need to be well-behaved at school, or you can't come. You need to be well-behaved at home, or you can't come. Now, if you've liked what you've done, you've really enjoyed it, and you've had a great time, and you've run around and you've learned some stuff, and you've punched some things, and you've elbowed some things, guess what? That's kind of a little bit of a small sacrifice to do what you're asked in return for getting all these, I feel fantastic today, and I've really been engaged with, and somebody's told me that I'm good for the first time today.
Yeah, brilliant.
So kind of trying to set the stall out. What I'll also do is, if we do get some, and you do get it, you can't, it's not no perfect world anywhere, and we do have kids that, all of a sudden are doing something that you don't want them to do, or looking the wrong way or whatever, and it'll either go, right, 2-star jumps, good, don't do that again, okay, or it'll be, it's a more serious thing, and I'll say to them, right, you've got a yellow card. What happens if you get another yellow card or get sent off? Because they understand football.
Yeah.
Yeah, that behaviour is not what I want. There's your yellow card. It's just a bit of one, and I'll do it, but I don't yell across it. Oh, you're a useless person, It's kind of, come here, right, yellow card for that. Don't do that again. Otherwise, a yellow card, what happens then? You're off. That's right. And that's it. And so for general class discipline, I think if the structure's right, if they're engaged right, if they've been pre-educated, if you like, about what's expected of them, we have very, very few discipline type problems. Yeah. And I also do, when we do NOR-8, attention stance, that's attention stance. That means stand still. And we'll stand at the front of the class just for a minute, and I go, stand still. Stand still. Don't move. Why are you moving? Why are you moving? Because it sets the form out that when I say I want you to do something, that's it. And I go, if I can't teach you to stand still, we're in real trouble here, aren't we?
Yeah.
And they go, okay. And with the younger ones, still as a statue.
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to stand as still as a statue, and feet out like a penguin.
I love it.
So I don't know why the Japanese want you to stand like a penguin, but they do. Okay. So we play it. So we go, set is our NOR-8 position for the kids. We just shout set, and go feet pointing out like and they'll go penguin, still as a statue. So they know what's expected, if you like, all the way. And we're trying to make it fun, but reinforced it.
Fantastic.
So I don't, touch wood, don't have any major discipline problem because the structure's there. They know what's expected. It's almost like this zero tolerance that the mayor of New York had at one stage. We're going to put you in jail for graffiti. It's kind of, well, if you can't stand still, then you might get a yellow card if you move again. And it's, okay, I'll do as I'm asked. And I always say, do as you're asked, not do as you're told. So.
Yeah, not lovely. And as you said, none of that gets in the way of their fun and the enjoyment. It makes it more productive, and obviously they get benefits from.
Yeah, kids love rules.
Yeah,
kids love rules because it gives them safety and structure and security of knowing what's the correct behaviour at the correct time. You send 10 kids out in the garden to play. Within minutes, there'll be a rule. There'll be a safe zone, a tag thing. You can't tag me on the leg because that's against the rules. This bit's lava and that bit. There'll be rules straight away. They just do it on their own.
Yeah.
But if you just go, well, these are the rules. Jump, jump, jump. That's it.
Awesome.
Cool.
Right. So precept 6 is children's education and lives are already structured, and it is advantageous to work with that structure. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things when I first started with teaching and creating Team Black Belt was I kind of thought I had to be here 52 weeks of the year, and I kind of thought I had to, just be a non-stop machine. Because again, go back to the 70s. If you had a day off for Christmas, that was kind of, you had a lazy day, didn't you? So my thoughts were, I've got to be open. I've just got to keep doing it. Children aren't like that at all. They have no concept of this idea at all, which is kind of good news. Their lives, the way children live are based around school terms. All right, so there's 6 weeks, there's a holiday. There's 6 weeks, there's a holiday. There's 6 weeks, there's a holiday. There's a big long holiday, and then there's another 6 weeks. Then there's a holiday. Then there's Christmas. So One of the things that I did originally was I just went, right, we're open 50. Oh, I daren't take a night off. I daren't be closed, blah, blah, blah. It just didn't turn up. We're on holiday this week. Okay. Normal class is 20. 3 people turn up.
Yeah.
Okay, what's going on here then? So after a while, it kind of took a bit of them training me is we don't do that. we and as an adult in the working world, by that I mean, you get up at 7 o'clock and you go to work and you come home at 5 o'clock, and you do that for 48 weeks of the year if you're lucky, and that's your understanding of how the world works. Yeah. Children's entirely different. So they'll do terms. They'll have breaks in the middle of it. At the end of a term, they want a fun day because they have one at school. Well, why aren't we having fun day? We're off for 2 weeks. Yeah. Well, where's the prom? Where's the prom? Where's the doge? Where's the disco? You're like, well, okay. So it took a long time for me to kind of just relax a little bit more with this. So, children's education lives, and therefore the mums' lives, and therefore, the whole environment we're talking about is governed by the way schools operate. And when schools are not in, they're either on holiday, or they go to grandma's, or they're out with their mates playing if they're old enough, or they're playing Xbox in the bedroom till midnight. But, so one of the things that I was very aware of is that by trying to do 52 weeks of the year, which I was burning myself out anyway, I'd never appreciated teachers having so much holiday until I was one. And so I think, oh God, no wonder I've done 6 weeks of this solid now. My brain's starting to fade. So we do take holidays. We train for with the kids' classes. I think we commit to doing 42 weeks a year.
Yeah.
So I don't take 6 weeks out in the summer, although I know one of my, in fact, quite a few around here, local schools, because of the way the council's set up, is they close the schools during the school holidays. So if you teach in a school gym or a school hall, you can't have it over the summer anyway. And that is not, the first time this happened was a friend of mine was, they told him with a week to go, oh, by the way, we're closed for the next 6 weeks. He's like, what do you mean? I'll have no karate school when I get back.
Yeah.
And all that happened was he closed for 6 weeks, worried himself to death. On the day they all started back at school, they all turned up at his dojo.
Because that's what they do. Yeah,
that's what they do. You go to, when you go to school, after school, you go to karate. If there's no school, you don't go to karate. So it's kind of, their lives are already structured. And I think we, as karate instructors, can, I want to say take advantage of it, because it sounds like a negative thing. But if you're saying to them, look, if you don't come next week, you're going to miss something. And if you miss that something, you're not going to get to practice it. And then you're not going to take your grade in because you've missed it. They're like, well, we're on holiday.
Yeah.
So, when we do, when we are training and the schools are on holiday, it's always a fun week. It's always a sword fighting week or a tag belt week, or do you know what I mean? Or even pad week. We just try and mix up the fun week, or learning to do jumping kicks week, so that it's an outside the syllabus activity that's really more fun than karate, if you like. But it's still got that undercurrent there all the time.
Yeah, it fits with the wider lives that they're living at that moment. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Because with kids especially, you're a hobby. And as they get older and then they get more and more into it, then they become more serious. I've got kids that are serious now. They're 10 years old and they're here every time the blooming doors open, they want to be through the doors. And that's great. But for every one of those, I've probably got 25 where it's a Thursday night and a Tuesday night after school class, and they're not into it in the same way. And the idea is that, these people I don't say, well, they're never going to be karateka. Well, hold on a minute. We're giving them all the benefits that karate gets. And yeah, they may never turn into what you would call karateka at the end of the day, but they're getting all the value out of it. They're getting the value systems. They're getting the structure. They're getting the say yes, sir, and no, sir to an instructor. They're getting good camaraderie with it. All the value system that they value, they're getting.
Yeah, and that's a positive impact on a child's life as well. Yeah. I also think as well, you can't, it's not right sometimes, you do get the guy who comes to karate because his friends are doing it, and it's not really his thing, but it can grow into being his thing. You know,
absolutely.
And I think for me, talking generally, one of the problems I had is when I started karate within the first few months ago, and I thought, this is it. I've found my calling. This is the thing that fascinates me and engages me. And then when I started teaching, I had a problem realizing that not everybody's like me.
That's right.
I couldn't understand. Why aren't you doing what I want you to do? Why? And then it was that realization that they say different people want different things from it, and then being open to that. So, but this is really useful for me, Mike, because that precept 6 is not something I've considered. I have the same. Like I say, I've recently started the kids class again, and my intention was exactly to do that. I will just teach as I'm living as an adult, and not teach so it fits in with their lifestyle as children. So that one's a really good one, and it means I get a few weeks off, Mike.
Well, it means you get a few weeks off. That's perfect. And if you're doing monthly, it still means you get paid, because they're paying for 42 lessons across the year, so your income doesn't change. And we're not into talking about the business side of it really, but I would always say monthly charge, but that's about another subject probably. We take 8 years to get to black belt. Why make them train 52 weeks of the year that doesn't fit with them, and then make them a black belt in 4 years so they leave and go and do gymnastics or something? It's like, well, hold on a minute. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, and the plus side of that is as well, of course, is you see it involves all those problems that teaching martial arts to children's, the purists in inverted commas would have this thing about how can you have a 12-year-old black belt and blah blah, which is it's true, So, but the idea of worse still, 4-year-old, 5-year-old one. But the way that you've structured this, again, 8 years to a downgrade, that's a worthwhile achievement. It fits with the lifestyle, that they're enjoying it, they're getting benefits from it, and you avoid all of the pitfalls with it as well. So
and you're not getting stressed, are you? You're not getting the child stressed, you're not getting the mum stressed. It just works much better to go, actually, they've got a system of living. Let's fit into it, and I've got on the bottom of my thing is like win-win-win. They win, the parents win, you win. It's like, why wouldn't you? And I'm not saying always closed, because one of the little slogans floats around is a martial arts school that's always closed, always closed. It's kind of, you just pick your holiday. We're going to be closed at Easter for 2 weeks. We're going to be closed at Christmas for 2 weeks, and I'm going on holiday in August. And it becomes a much more sensible way of running a school, a business that fits in with. They expect that. They expect you to be closed.
Just to give it a personal observation of that, this is last night, right? So I taught my kids children's class last night. So it's been my favourite class of the week. I've got a lovely set of kids. Really enjoy working with them. They're great. Last night, the behaviour was not as good as it normally was. There was I had to be on them a little bit more. They're still they did good, but normally they've got this thing now. They line up fast. They do but it was just a little bit off. And at the end of the class, I turned to Becky and go. I says, it was harder work keeping them in line tonight. And she just looks at me and she says, it's a start of the school holidays. And I went, there we go. Exactly. But it's exactly this. Well, it's the end of term, so we have fun. We blow off steam. We don't, what I mean. We do our thing now. So it was just indicative of what they'd been doing at school that week.
They'd be playing games and dressing up.
Well, and if I'd been smart, what I could have done is we'll have a fun night tonight. What I mean? So brilliant. Precept 7, Mike. We're okay to move on to that one.
Okay. So again, follow the school systems, okay? Because they're kind of the experts, if you like, in teaching. Allegedly, they've been teaching kids since the education system, I think, started in the 20s, maybe before that even. But schools in the UK certainly structured like this, and I don't know about the rest of the world, but they'll follow something along the same lines. Is there preschool places, under 5s? There'll be infant schools that are 5 to 7, something like that, 5 to 8. Junior schools, 8 to 11. Senior schools, 11 to 16. Adult colleges, 16 to 18. And then off onto university, which is you're a full adult and you're supposed to know what you're doing. So, the Boy Scouts, the Boy Scout movement, they have cubs for under 6s. They have I can't remember the next level. There'd be scouts from about the age of 11.
Yeah, there's beavers as well now.
Beaver, that's right. Beavers,
well,
cubs, scouts, venture scouts, and then leadership, I think, in the scout movement. So the brownies is exactly the same. So these are worldwide teaching organisations and national government approved school structures across the world. And then as karateka, we go, no, we'll put everybody in the same class. We'll have the 5-year-old with the 50-year-old. We'll have the 6'2" person with the 4'2" person. It doesn't make any sense. So kind of my precept for 7 is just follow the school programs. They're the experts, and it feeds back into the next. The previous precept is their educational structure is that way. They expect to go to an infant school. They expect to go to a junior school. They expect to go to a senior school, and it kind of, if you set martial art classes out in the same way. So from, I don't know, you can do early classes if you want for the very young ones. We start at 5 o'clock, so we can do 5 o'clock for our dragons class, which is 5 and 6 year olds. Then we do 7 and 8 year olds, 9 and 10, and then we just, we have a time allocation slot for a 45-minute class for an age group. And then as the age gets older, the class gets a bit longer. We go to an hour class, and then the adults is an hour and 15 at the end, So we then run structured classes for those people. And again, over the years, I've developed that, look, if somebody comes in at 6 years old, we start them as a white belt. If they come in at 7 years old, it's 3 belts later. They come in as an orange belt. If they come in at 9 or 10 years old, or a little bit older, they start as an orange belt. So, and again, the things.
So what do you do then, Mike? I presume they wear a white belt. Then the first belt that grade 2 would be orange. Is that how you do it?
The first belt. The way we do it, again, it's school terms. Okay, so we do. So every colour belt has this pattern to it. So let's say yellow. So we do a yellow and white, yellow and black. Next year, or the next term following, we'll do orange and white, orange and black. Green and white, green and black. So there's 3 school terms, 12 weeks a term.
Yeah.
And sort of as their age, and what because you're taking a long period of time to teach them what they learn. If you give you give a task to a 5-year-old, it takes them 3 weeks to learn it. You could give the same task to an 8-year-old, learn it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Give it to an adult and learn it in 2 minutes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So what we're kind of doing is going, well, developmentally, a 7-year-old has been on the earth 30% longer than a 5-year-old. So we go, okay, well, look, there's some credit for that. Although you joined us a bit later. And it kind of builds back into the syllabus where we're going, look, just for roundhouse kicks, okay? So and it's not quite like this, but this is just to just explain it quite simply. So we will have somebody do it. So the youngest children will stand still, lift their knee to the side, and do a roundhouse kick, and they'll hit a pad or the target, the standing bag. So they'll stand still, lift the knee up, extend their leg. The next group will go from stance and do a slide step, lift their knee up, kick their bag. The next age group will do back leg roundhouse kick. So the fact that our 5 and 6 year olds are standing still doing a roundhouse kick, they're getting used to lifting their knee, having the correct foot position, having the correct knee position, keeping their arms up like ice creams. 2 ice creams. What happens if you wave your arms? What happens if you wave your ice creams about? They fall on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Your arms up. So our youngest class, the movements that they do are very simplified versions of the next class.
Yeah.
The next class will do very simplified versions of the next class. And by the time they're taking junior black belt, it's, for the kids, 540 jumping, spinning, what's it kicks. So, by an 8-year-old can stand still, lift his knee up and do the roundhouse kick, the same as a 5-year-old can, but it takes him 2 minutes to learn it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so you're taking to account their the intrinsic abilities they're going to have at that age range. Yeah. So just so I can understand on the grading thing. So if you had, say, an 8-year-old who comes in for his first class, and he's got this credit, so how does his what? So does he start with a white belt? How does he?
When he joins, they do a joining pack, so they'll get a suit with their name embroidered on it and their logo embroidered on it. They'll get their mitts, and they'll get a bag to put it all in. And then they'll come on. Once they've said yes, we want to do it, and they sign the monthly thing, and there's a 1 month cancellation. So if you leave, you leave. I don't do any of this contract nonsense and all that sort of stuff. We just do monthly fees, so they haven't got to ferret down the back of the settee for money to come to class. So, but when he joins up, he gets his suit, and he gets his suit with a white belt. Yeah. He'll train for 12 weeks, and then he'll take his first grade in. For him, it'll be an orange and white belt.
I'm with you. Yeah, I see that. Yeah. They're very good. Yeah, and that makes sense because of the way that you've got it structured, so they can slot in quite naturally at that point. Yeah, I understand what you're saying now. Yeah, very clever. That's a very well-structured system. And as you say, it fits with the way they divide things up at school. It takes into account the age range they are. And I like the fact that you're not trying to get children of every age range trying to do the same thing. You know what I mean? That's that's very well thought through, Mike. I'm impressed. That's I wouldn't want to get too deep into the syllabus, so I'll maybe leave that there. But that might be something that maybe come back to a future podcast and break it down a bit more, because that's it seems like a very clever way to do it. Yeah, love it. Which again, on the precept 8, the precept 8 would lead into the way that you treat things differently for the children as well. So your precept 8 is teach the same thing to the same class at the same time. So you mind expanding on that one as well?
Okay. So we use I developed, and it's not my original idea, but I developed my own rotating curriculum. So for any class, any child in the class learns the same thing. I teach, they all learn that. So if you want to evaluate it to school, which is probably the easiest thing, if today we're learning about the Romans, what I don't do is teach 3 people about the Romans in the class, 2 people about the Victorians, and somebody else about archaeology. Yeah, I teach everybody in the class the same. Now, if at the end of the year, let's say the school sets out in January to say, look, we're going to teach Romans, Victorians, Tudors. Okay, so what they don't do is mix everybody up. They go, right, for the first term we're going to teach Romans, and everyone in the class learns Romans, and then Victorians, and then Tudors. So the teacher's got one job, one syllabus to teach. Now then, because what they're doing is so similar and dissimilar at the same time. So let's say that it's difficult to do this without talking about the curriculum. But if somebody, let's say in term 1, you do step and punch. So you do Junzuki, Oizuki, step and punch to your solar plexus. So I teach everyone in the class to do that. Class 2, I might teach them to step and punch to the nose. So in term 2, they learn step and punch to the nose. It's exactly the same as punching to the body. It's just the arms 20 degrees higher. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if a child joins in term 2 and learns to step and punch to the nose, or he's previously done step and punch to the body.
Yeah.
In term 3, I might teach and do a palm heel strike, Junzuki stance. So again, the skill requirement of each term is very similar. So in my case, for 6 terms, a child will go through this modules: Romans, Tudors, Saxons, and then they'll move up a class into the next age group, and they'll learn 6 terms worth of things that are more difficult.
Yeah.
And then we'll go up again to another 6 terms, and they'll learn things that are much more difficult.
Yeah, so the progression is done as they get older and they move to the next one as well. And as you say, within that level, it doesn't matter what order they learn the individual components of it.
No. Yeah. Just as long as, and again, if you go back a few years, the teaching was, age range was 12 to 55, white belts to Dan grades, 3-hour-long class, nobody being taught anything. Do you know what I mean? Or for the half an hour you're focusing on the Dan grades, the orange belts are kicking lumps out of each other or bored stiff, and the teaching became it was like, I don't know. I think you'd have to be a magician to try and keep everybody engaged fully.
You need a team of you, or it gets incredibly difficult. Yeah. I mean, just to because obviously I've visited your dojo and I've seen how you do this, so I know the level to which you've broken this down, which the listener may not. So if I was, just for the benefit of the listeners, if I was to walk in your dojo now and say what will be taught on Tuesday night in 2014, you'd be able to show me it. And not only that, I'd be able to pick it up, any instructor would, and they'd know exactly what's taught on that class on that night. It's broken down to that degree, which is, again, that's a degree of efficiency and organisation you don't see in many dojos. But the results, obviously you put a lot of work in to get that there, but the results speak for themselves, because when you look at the standard of your kids, it's obviously working. And from an instructor's point of view, your instructors that work with you must find that so much easier as well. They turn up and they know exactly what they've got to do on any given night.
Well, on Thursday last week, so for changing the days of the podcast, my partner Helen, she was ill and she got took into hospital. So I rang round some of the Dan grades that are the adult Dan grades that are with me and said, look, can you cover for me tonight? And they just went, yeah, fine. So Helen's fine, everything was fine. She got full MOT now, so it's all right. When I came into the dojo late on the Thursday, about 9 o'clock-ish, and it's the end of the adults class, and I spoke to the Dan grades that had taken the early classes. I said, how'd you get on? But no, it was great. We just went to the book, had a look what week it is. Oh yeah, it's week 8. That's what I've got to do. That's what I've got to do. Good, fine, done. And they did that with the 5-year-olds, the 7-year-olds, the 9-year-olds, the 11-year-olds, and the adults, and it was all there. So what I've got is I've got 8 years worth of curriculum week by week, and I know which term it is. So I've got 6 terms, and if it's week 3 in term 2, I can tell you what the kids are going to be doing. So I can tell you what they're going to be doing in 2024. Now, do I always stick to it? Is it as rigid as it sounds? No, because you go, actually, they need more work on the kicks than I'd anticipated. We'll just change it. Actually, it's 35 degrees in the shade outside. We're not going to do the running around like maniac stuff. We're going to change it, and we're going to move. Week 3 becomes week 10.
Yeah.
And you've always got, it's just a bit of paper with a cross on it, but you ignore it or not ignore it. But it just means the whole thing's structured.
Yeah, it's without being dogmatic, as you say. You've got it all roughly mapped out. But again, that degree of organisation must be great for all involved. So.
Yeah. It was it's a bit of a lifesaver. I turn to say, I'm quite happy the Dan grades that I got would have gone in and taught a class. But what they actually did was taught the class that I would have taught. Which is really nice. I mean, I've got all that videoed, and I'll talk to you later about the Team Black Belt Pro. But so every lesson, every term is all videoed. So if they're not sure, they can just click on the computer in the dojo and go, what's middle stance hammer fist? What does that look like? Because middle stance hammer fist is different to front stance hammer fist, because that's next terms.
And that's always just a general problem, and I think everyone can relate to this. Although allegedly in any given dojo we're all doing the same system style, approach. We all know that we've all had this experience where one instructor will walk past you and go, your hand needs to be higher. Then the next one comes back and goes, your hand needs to be lower.
Yeah.
And we're left confused. So the nice thing about what you're saying there is the instructors have a reference for, I mean, obviously they're instructors, they know what they're doing themselves, but you're saying, this is specifically how I want this taught on this given night. Very nice, very nice. Excellent. Yeah. Precept 9, Mike, is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So public praise, private correction.
Okay, so listen, nobody likes to be given a rollicking, do they? Nobody likes to be called out, especially in front of other people. So, if I go, Abernethy, you're a plonker, we're doing it on a podcast now. The whole world thinks...
Yeah, if they're not saying it, there's plenty thinking it, so yeah.
So nobody likes to be given a rollicking. So one of the things that we do as much as humanly possible is public praise, private correction. So a correction may be, look, you're not quite doing, the attitude that you've got's not quite as good as I want it to be. You've messed about a couple of times tonight. I need you to change that behaviour, rather than standing there going, you're a useless in front of the class, because it just makes people shrink. And if I go back to the sort of precept 1, I want to improve people's lives. So if I can correct somebody, I just go, come and see me at the end. Now listen, what's going on with you then? Why have you just had a bad and just having a bad day? Okay, it's a great excuse for being able to tell a child off and let them off the hook and make the message go across. Yeah, so you can say to them, what's going on with you today? You having a bad day or something? And they go, my dog died. And you think, oh shit, no wonder he's been distracted tonight. Or if you just have a bad day, you say, oh well, I have bad days as well. Next week you be on it, and you can do that privately and quietly on one side, because of the ethos that we're trying to make everybody feel great. Yeah, one of the easiest ways to make Ian, that's the best seminar I've ever been to. Yeah, so if I say that to you on public on a web seminar, on the podcast, you go, actually, I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, nice of you to say. Yeah.
And it's dead easy to do. And so what I like to try and do is public praise as much as I can. You're the loudest in the class tonight. Well done, good. You're the most accurate kid in the class tonight. You were right on target with that. Your stance is coming on brilliantly. Yeah, and all the other kids go, why did they get praised? Well, I'm going to make sure my stance isn't too narrow.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to build their self-worth. We're always trying to promote them into what they do, rather than, and it's dead easy to do, listen, behave like that again, I'll throw you out. That's rubbish. What are you doing? What do you know to get your knee higher than that? It just grates with me, because they just think, oh crikey, I'm being put down.
I might in front of my peers.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that trashes any sort of confidence building that you're trying to, any self-worth, and you have a real big responsibility as a karate instructor with children. I think you make such a massive positive difference, and if you're not careful, you can make such a massive negative difference to someone. You're not. That's not right. You're poor. And I get sort of the instructors we're mixing with, and you're mixing with more than I am. They're good people and they've got good hearts, but it is an easy mistake to fall into. Is your stance is wrong. What I've told you twice. Well, come on, guys. Let's just show him how to correct his stance. Maybe do it nice and quietly, or kneel down.
And that's a really good thing, because you're not talking about them not getting corrected. They do get corrected. They do get pulled up on bad behaviour. They do get pulled up on faults. But you do so in a way that's productive, helpful, and psychologically healthy. And as you say, it helps the group as well. Yeah. Because as you say, that motivating with the carrot. Okay, that child's just had some praise for something good. I acknowledge that's something good. Yeah. I want to try and achieve the same thing. You see.
A dead easy thing to do, and just to prove the point to yourself, is when your kids are doing some sort of warm up, make them shout. Right, so we do star jumps. So they'll do a star jump count to 5. Right, if I'm if my brain's in gear properly, like on the podcast, I'm saying to them, "Well done, you're the loudest this week." What happens next? The next time they do star jumps, they're raising the roof. Yeah. If I say to them, "Well, that wasn't very good, was it? You're too quiet tonight. Do it again."
Yeah. You get you get an entirely different effect.
Yeah. You were louder last week. Come on. It's a positive way of saying, come on, get improve, get better. But I think the public praise is worth so much to anybody, really. And it's a part of this making you feel fantastic. And one of the great ways to make you feel, just tell them they've done something right. Because it might be the first time all day or all week that this kid's been told he's done something right.
And it definitely works. I mean, I had that, same thing last night. I was teaching the kids' class last night. They're all beginners. One of the kids has got this lovely angle coming on his roundhouse. So I said to him, okay, you demonstrate that, Yeah. So he comes up in front of everybody. He shows everyone the roundhouse.
Absolutely.
He's beaming from ear to ear.
Yeah.
And then straight away after that, he goes back in the lines and everybody's roundhouse suddenly looks better because, it's like, okay.
I want that praise. I want
that's it. And of course, and then they get it, that's it. That's much better. Yeah, no, it's.
Yeah, one of my sort of little favourite things to say to them is, right, who's going to be an excellent example tonight? Who's going to be an excellent example? I will, sir. Come on, out you come then. Let's see it. Yeah, very good. Was that excellent? And the group are all going, yeah, yeah, all right, off you go. So trying to make some, and sort of preempt them. Who's going to be excellent tonight? And it's kind of, I am. Sir. So out you come. But then, exactly what happened to you last night. Then everybody goes, oh, that's how to be excellent. Especially if you pick a kid who can do it well. If you pick one who can't,
it's one of these things I did just on Daftness a couple of weeks ago as well. I had the kids just working in pairs on trying to get the front stance right and just trying to help each other improve the stances, so get them to think about what they're doing. And anyway, one of the kids, he's only been coming a few weeks, but he knew exactly what a good front stance should be, and was a bit longer, a bit wider, and so I took my belt off and said, stick that on, I'm not needed here, you can do my job.
Brilliant.
You know what I mean? So I just like as a joke, so he puts him belt on, of course, it's hanging down by his knees. You see, and then again, I didn't do it deliberately. I just did it because I thought it would be funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as soon as you can see his self-esteem jump, and then all the other kids, instantly the front stances improve as well. So yeah, it definitely works, and I like the way that you've expressed that. There's a lot of good stuff in that. That's good.
And we do something that maybe some of the traditionalists will turn over in their graves at. Is we do Black Belt of the Week.
Oh, so yeah.
Every class, we choose somebody who's black belt. Come out the front. You were excellent. I noticed you doing front kick beautifully. I noticed you were the loudest, strongest. You helped somebody over there right at the start of the class. Even before the class started, you helped him and looked after him, made sure his mitts were on properly. You're black belt of the week. Come out the front. That's why. And then they get to wear the black belt next week.
Yeah, that's a really good. Christopher, who runs a Goju club, and he has a student of the week belt that's embroidered.
Right,
so
nice.
That's and he does the same thing. So they get it, for each given week.
Yeah, we did occasionally, and we don't do it very often because I just have to be, you have to be a bit careful with taking photographs of kids and stuff. We started doing Black Belt of the Week and standing them next to the logo, and then is it okay to post it on Facebook? Yeah. So we always check with the parents who do it. I don't do it very often because it's a bit onerous, to be honest. It's kind of like I'm trying to do 20 of them a week. It's kind of post them all and getting permissions and all that sort of stuff. So, but it was just something that we did, for a short period of time that seemed to be, and the parents shared it. So, look at little Jimmy, he's got his black belt of the week. Oh, where'd you do karate? Oh, he does his black belt. You're off and running, you see. But again, public praise, public thing, and then the parents go, little Jimmy got black belt of the week this week, and they're talking about it at the school gates and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, very good. And which brings us to the next one, the final one we've got there. So, Precept 10, Parent Sustained Class.
Yeah. So you've seen our dojo. We have the facility to have a little parents area. Especially with the younger kids, once they get to 11 and they're off on their own at school and all that sort of stuff, I'm not too pedantic with it, but we ask the parents to stay for class, and they sit in the parents area and largely ignore us, but they are reassured psychologically, if you like, that we're not doing anything that we shouldn't be doing with their kids. We do get them engaged, and we do, I had them all up doing silly exercises the other week. What's this latest craze? Flossing. Have you heard of flossing?
Believe it or not, yes.
So one of the kids started doing it, and I thought, well, should I jump on this and say we don't do that sort of silly behaviour here? And my brain clicked into going, no, this is exactly the sort of silly behaviour we should be doing. And so I got the kid to come out the front and demonstrate how to do it. And then I said, right, we're all going to learn it. So then I taught the whole class what this kid had just taught me. And then I said, your job next week is to teach all your grown-ups, because next week we're all doing it as part of the warm-up. So the week after, 30 seconds, all the parents doing it. So, but what it does, it engages them. It engages the parent to support you with whatever you're trying to do as an instructor. It shows we've got no secrets. We've got nothing to hide. I'm not yelling at your kids. I'm not trying to do things that we shouldn't be doing with kids. We want you to come and support them. We want you to become involved. We want you to be quiet while we're teaching, though. But it just promotes the school. And then, the black belt of the week, and little Jimmy's doing really well at karate. It's something they talk about because they're part of the team. They're part of the group. It's important that we're working with your child. We want you to support us by practicing, get a pillow and get them to practice, or do daft stuff like that. So I found that really valuable as an instructor, just to be, there's nothing to hide here.
Well, I also think for the first, again, children, if mum and dad are sitting in the corner while you're establishing your authority and the way things work, that can be helpful.
Yeah.
So, but that's not mandatory for them, Mike, is it? It's strongly encouraged, but
it's strongly encouraged, and it's borderline. We expect it. You know, and I had a parent last night come in and say, I've just got to nip out for 10 minutes, and I'll say, okay, that's fine. Off you go and do whatever you've got to do, but make sure you're back to, to rest at the end of the lesson. Especially the younger ones. I'm not a babysitter. I'm a karate instructor. So you don't drop your kids off with me and come back an hour later.
Yeah, I mean, this is going back a long time, probably 20, more than that, 20 odd years ago. But at the other end of the street from where the place we still train is a pub.
Right.
So when we teach your kids, we'd occasionally get that where they'd drop them off, they'd go to the pub and then come back, you see, which is not good in any way, shape or form.
No.
So that was, again, that was quickly stamped on with this idea of, we expect you to stay for the first few weeks, because then it just makes it clear that we expect your active participation in this as well. You see.
Yeah, and I just think it's good. It's a good thing for the parents. I'm sort of the millennial parents. We're almost at millennial parents now, aren't we? I end up teaching them half the time. You can tell your child to behave. You can tell them to sit down. You can expect them to say sir and thank you and please. If a child's belt comes off, one of the most common things is a belt comes undone, and they walk up to you holding it. And they stand there looking at you. And I'm going, yes, and my belt's come off. Yes, it has.
And they're like, address yourself.
Right, hang on a minute. So, please, sir, can you help me with my belt? Yeah? Oh, please, sir, can you? Yes, I can. There you go. Now what do you say? Oh, thank you, sir. Okay, fine. And off we go. But I'm teaching the grown-up that that's what I expect.
Yeah.
And they should expect it at home, not just, my shoes undone. Like, well, no, you should be, and we kind of develop that and say, what happens if your pencil breaks at school? Please, miss, can you help me with my pencil? I said, you're going to get a much better reaction than just holding your pencil up in the air.
Well, that's it. And I'm sure this is one, obviously there'll be a lot of instructors listening to this podcast. I'm sure they've all had that parent who said to them, I don't know what it is you do differently, but I wish I had you at home, or I wish to behave like this at home, And they say often as not, it's the way that they're being treated and the expectations of them as well.
It's a setting out of the rules. It's a setting out. So this is right, this is wrong, or this is the way we want you to behave like it.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Mike, that's so much good stuff in there for people to have a detailed think on. And what I'll do is I'll with your permission, the headline of the precepts. I'll put on the notes of the podcast as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So if you listen to this on your iPhone or whatever, you can just look at the notes for the podcast and you can see them and read them through. But very grateful to you for taking the time to do this. So if people want to learn more, I know you've got a lot of online resources available for instructors and stuff. Can you maybe give us a little bit of details of
this is the advert now? Okay, so first thing is I've written a book. It's called How to Build a Black Belt Business, and that's available from lulu.com.
Read that book, very good book. Recommend that book.
Thank you. And that's
always say to everyone, you're not serving your students or your art if you're teaching in a hall with no lights on and nobody knows you're there. So ethical, good business practices are very important. And your books, it's fantastic. I got a lot of good ideas out of that book, so strongly recommend that. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Ian. That's great. And then there's teamblackbelt.pro, which is a website that I use for a couple of for our students as a resource for their lessons. And we also use it as a resource for a couple of affiliate schools that we've got that do the Team Black Belt way, Team Black Belt method. So that's a monthly subscription site, but you kind of, if you go onto it, you can crawl over quite a bit of it without signing up to anything. If anybody does want the precepts that I've written, I'm quite happy to email them to me. So if they email me at mike@teamblackbelt.pro, and then I'll just return my Word copies of the precepts to them, the notes if they want that. I'm quite happy to do that. And then if anybody does want to become a Team Black Belt school and do what we do and be supported, then again, get in touch, Mike at teamblackbelt.pro, and we'll have a chat about how that works and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's my little advert done. I think. Can't think of anything else.
Yeah, it's mandatory. You've got to do that at the end of the podcast. That's how it works.
Okay. Now listen, just one little thing for you and the people listening. A guy goes into a solicitor's, speaks to the solicitors, and said, "How much is it for some advice?" And the solicitor said, "Oh, it's £500 for 3 questions." So he says, "Well, that's a lot of money, isn't it?" And the solicitor says, "No, it's not. And what's your 3rd question?" So I'd leave you with that one.
that appeals to me. It might not to everybody, but yeah, I really like it.
Leave it in or cut it out. It's up to you.
No, I'll leave that in. You're not getting away with it. It's staying in.
I'm worried about the joke more than the podcast.
All right, Mike, thanks very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Thanks a lot, Ian. I'll speak soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I'm sure you enjoyed that as much as I did. As I said in the introduction, I think Mike is one of the guys who really has this down to a fine art. If you look at the quality of the karateka that Mike produces and how much it is they enjoy what they do, there's no doubt about the effectiveness of his methods. And there's lots of other facets to teaching and running a dojo that I'd like to pick Mike's brain on as well, so I'm sure we'll have him back on the podcast at some point. So I hope you enjoyed listening to this one. Thank you so much for your support of the podcasts, and I'll be back with more soon. Okay, take care everyone. Speak soon. Bye bye.